Hi, this is part two of sexual behaviors, and we were talking about fantasy, and we said that there are many reasons to involve ourselves in sexual fantasy, and one of those was during the treatment of sexual anxiety or sexual issues surrounding the inability to attain and maintain erections. Um, It's also a way to express internally, anyway, and accept in an acceptable way, the expression of unusual or forbidden desires that one has. Okay, um, I think it's important that you know that not all uh, uh, fantasies ought to be shared. They are yours. They belong to you. Your partner doesn't have a right to hear them from you, and you may not wish to discuss that with them. If you think that your partner would not appreciate them or be energized by them, or then don't share them. Um, Talk with your partner if you wish to about your fantasies when you're not being sexual. Don't expect them to like them or to be willing to participate if it's a fantasy you wish to enact. Simply talking about a fantasy could and is for many couples a turn on, but it's not necessarily something that somebody wants in the real world. And I will hasten to tell you that a common fantasy is adding a third person to the relationship or to the sexual activity, and this in real life is almost invariably disaster for the primary relationship. Very few people can carry that off. Very few people. Okay. So sexual fantasies are fueled by testosterone. We know this because when someone has no sexual fantasies and we then see how much testosterone they have, what we often see is they have no testosterone. And the reverse is true. Okay? Someone who has no testosterone, who then is given testosterone, starts to have sexual fantasies. Fantasies are normal, healthy, and invigorating. They're most common, when people are self pleasuring, when they're daydreaming, when they're night dreaming. Common even during intercourse with a partner. But remember, some can become compulsive. Anything can become compulsive, can't it? And that's when a problem exists. And the problem in the context of a relationship is that upon compulsivity, they become disconnecting, you see. Some people carry shame about their fantasies, but fantasies are not reality. I want to address rape fantasies right away. So they are not uncommon among women. They're much less common among men, but they do occur. That does not mean that a woman wishes to be assaulted. That's not what this means. We're not sure exactly what it is, but we believe that it is a representation of being swept away, having no responsibilities, and having yet high levels of desire by a partner. But it's not about assault. It's not about violence. It's not. Okay, I mean, really, that made it really clear. Now, if fantasies begin to take a turn towards compulsivity, as I mentioned, or lots and lots of violence, or degradation, or torment, or animal involvement, then we're beginning to wonder what that's about. Okay. So that's correlated to social ineptitude, isolation, and maybe even psychological disturbance of one kind or another. I've seen this in some clients that it has all three factors, in some cases, just the first two: social ineptitude or isolation, or fears of intimacy, I would like to say, as a different way to look at it. If a fantasy is taking on a nature of disconnection, then if it becomes common and or necessary, and sometimes that's what happens, in order to be responsive physically, they have to have a very dark, violence oriented, or in some other way problematic fantasy, then we've reached a level of disconnection for sure, and may need some redirection in the context of therapy. Now, there are differences between male and female fantasies. Males, as I said in one other section here in the last video, males have a greater number of partners in their fantasies than females. They have a more active role than females in their sexual behaviors within the context of a fantasy. They have more explicit, detailed events, and females are more likely to have previous experiences within their fantasies. Both males and females would like to have someone very attractive to have sex with them, who really desires them. Females are more likely to want safe and sensual environments, like a getaway, a beach, a mountain house, things like that. Males are more likely to fantasize about forcing sex in some way or being pushy about it, and females are more likely to being sort of forced to have sex or pushed into it in some way. Males are more likely to have, or less likely to have same-sex sexual activity, and females are much more likely to have same-sex activity. And both males and females have new partners in their fantasies. Okay. So I am done with this section, and we could talk about just fantasies for hours, and we could talk about sexual behaviors for hours and hours and hours. But I'd like to give you, as you may have noticed if you've watched more than just this video, the crux of an issue, the distillation of an issue. So I hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you later. Bye.